So what are you going to get as an output that's going to go into the report? It's going to be something like this. This is, again, the one from the Bathurst Street example. So we've got our existing conditions. We're reporting what the volume to capacity ratios are there. And then we've got our future background conditions, which again, remember, is in 5 years' time. If we didn't build our new development, this is what it's going to be like. And then we've got our future total conditions, which is, again, if we build our new development, what's it going to be like? And it's pretty obvious to see what the impact of our development is, because 0.94 minus 0.989 gives you an indication of how things are going to change because of our development. So 0.94, that's getting up pretty high, so 94% of the existing capacity at the College and Bathurst intersection is going to be used up. This is sort of downtown peak hour conditions. It's going to be pretty busy. And if we didn't build our site, it's going to be 0.89%. We're having a 5% increase because of our site. But we're still under 1, so, by the standards of downtown traffic, that's still pretty reasonable. Like, everybody's going to fit. That's basically what you get out of this at the end. And then here we go. This is the bit of text that talks about, that goes in the report, that goes along with this table and actually tells you what it all means. It operates under existing conditions. It's currently, it's pretty busy. 0.78, 0.87, 0.83. And under future backgrounds, it's going to be just a little bit busier. And then under future total, so with our site, it's going to be a little bit busier still. And then the same thing for the other places. And then here we go. This is the most important sentence in the entire report, I suppose. New site traffic volumes can be acceptably accommodated at all intersections within the study area. So all of that analysis, all of that calculations, all of that study area decisions, all of that data collection, everything that we've done is basically to get us as far as being able to get this table, which says that all of these numbers here are less than 1. We're in downtown Toronto, so it's okay to go right up to the capacity because it's always going to be busy. And so we get to have this final sentence in the report that says, can be acceptably accommodated at all intersections. And that's it. Traffic is done. Assuming that everybody who reviews your report agrees with all your assumptions and is willing to accept that you've used the right traffic generation and the right distribution and you've done the modelling correctly, and etc. and etc. and etc. But the finding of this report is it's acceptable. And that's sort of what we were always aiming at for this TIA. And I suppose the big question is, what do you get? What happens if you get to the end of this and you end up with some of these numbers aren't acceptable? So in the context of downtown Toronto, if some of these numbers were 1 or above, we'd have a problem. If this site was instead out in the suburbs and the particular jurisdiction that we were looking at, they had a sort of a blanket rule that we don't want it to ever get over 0.8 because we want our traffic to flow really, really quickly. And of course, you would remember from second year that traffic is an upturned U. And so here we are at level of service C. Things are going really, really well and we get tons of volume through. Here we are at level of service E. Oh, well, it's really busy and we're in stop-start traffic. And here we are at level of service F. Oh no, I've just broken my thing. Once we get down to level of service F, we start getting to the stage where everybody's stuck in traffic and we don't go anywhere. How close are we to level of service F in these conditions? Well, 0.96 was getting pretty close. Remember, level of service F is probably going to be volume of capacity 1.000. And so we're not that far off here. But in the context of downtown Toronto, that's sort of okay because this is a sort of place where it's always busy, and we're not really having a huge amount of added impact on the site. But of course, in the context of, suburban wherever, and they're used to being able to drive around at, freeway, highway speeds, we might struggle to get anywhere below level of service C before it starts being something that is unacceptable and therefore unreasonable, and so it could not be acceptably accommodated. One of the other things that you can do in some of this sort of stuff, when you do get, individual movements over one, you might be in there fiddling with traffic signal times and adjusting the signal phasing, adding in a new lane. This is fundamentally what it comes down to, is that we might actually have to build a little bit more of the road network to acceptably accommodate our site. And so if you think about what we're actually doing here, way back where we were talking about what we're doing, you can see here we actually have decided that we are going to have a separate left and a separate right to turn out of our site. And part of the reason that we would have done that is so that we get more traffic through when this movement has green. Whereas if we only had one lane, we wouldn't get as much traffic through, and then therefore we'd have to allocate more green time to this movement, which means that this movement would get less green time, and so therefore we might end up with, higher numbers here. And so you can see that the end result is an output that says everything's going to be fine, but part of the iterative design process is that we might have had to go back and tell our architect that, no, I actually need a left turn and a right turn lane, because otherwise we can't reasonably accommodate the traffic on this thing, because you've got 105 vehicles an hour trying to turn right. Maybe we need a right turn slip lane, or maybe we need a left turn arrow or something like that. This ends up being a very iterative process. But fundamentally, the thing you're trying to get to at the end of the day is this wonderful sentence that says, everything will be fine and it can be acceptably accommodated.